Hi everyone, I am Rajesh Kumar. I am having close to 16 plus years of experience in DevOps, SRE and DevSecOps. I have worked with more than 12 software organizations around the globe. I would like to introduce you all a DevOps School's flagship certification program in DevOps, SRE and DevSecOps. This program will get started in the weekends, so get enrolled. Please contact us on the phone number given on the screen, and in fact you can email us on the contact at the rate of devopsschool.com.
Okay, so first thing which we are going to cover today is Nginx web server. So what is web server? So so when we let's understand this architecture of applications and how it is being served. So if you look at this, this is us, this is us, and we have a laptop. And in our laptop we have a browser, and then we type www.google.com. So this request through ISPs travel to DNS server. Right now there are thousands of DNS public DNS servers is available, and from this traffic is transferred to load balancer of the web server. Now the question is, what is a web server? So web server is basically is the first application's front end from where the services, I mean, where the request is received. So this here it can be web server, and multiple machines. Here it can be, let's say, one machine, two server, three server, four server, five server. So these are the web servers. So Nginx can be there here. Multiple web server we have Nginx, we have Apache, we have Apache 2, and IS we have in .NET Windows World. So this is the web server which receive the request. Okay, and a response, if you want to serve that, let's say if you want to serve the response like a static page like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, images. So these are the primary response you can serve. So if your website is a static website, HTML based website, you can serve the response from here only. So getting the request and sending the response. Now if you have the dynamic website like language based like a PHP, Java, Ruby and all, so this can transfer the traffic, the request to your backend, which you can keep it in different languages like Java, PHP or something, Ruby, Python and all. So it can be done. And then this is a database. So web server is a place where all the request is accepted, static content is being served, and on the web server only you can do the lots of work in terms of traffic manipulations, proxy, redirections, and many more things. Are you understanding, all of you?
Yep. Yes.
Yeah. So here we have Nginx, Apache, and IS. Now, Tomcat is an application server that here this can be Tomcat, WebSphere, and all. So they have an inbuilt most of the app server. This is the web server. This is the Tomcat app server. So app server like um, uh, Tomcat, WebLogic, WebSphere, and also most of these is having their own embedded web server. Okay, that's the reason you see some places they don't install the web server directly Tomcat. So that is one of the reason they have embedded web server. Without a web server you cannot serve the web services. It has to be there. Any framework if you are using like Django and all, they have embedded web servers. Okay, so now the question is how do we install it? So let me install this. So I'll just start one of the machine. Here I got it. Ubuntu. Okay, so Nginx also we have a multiple types of Nginx. Okay, so let me show you through some of the slides. So here if you see that uh, these are the use cases for the Nginx. This is Nginx Plus. Okay, so it can be used for web server. It can be used for reverse proxy. It can be used for load balancers. It can be used for cache. It can be used for WAF, means web applications um, firewall. It can be used for internal DDoS protections. It can be used for API gateway. It can be used for Kubernetes ingress controller IC. Okay, it can be used for sidecar proxy. So if you look at this here, many use cases are there. Sidecar proxy H2 is being used. Ingress controller is being used, again API gateway now. So many things are there here. You can install Ingress in any platform. You can install in Windows, Linux, sorry, Nginx in any platform, Windows, Linux. It can run in containers also, and so on. Now let me install it and then talk about the configurations of it. So I think I logged in. Now I'll go to the website Nginx, and here this is the company who is offering the Nginx, and here you see that versions. This is F5 Nginx. This is a different product for use for load balancing. There's an open source also, so I'll type Nginx download. It will be easier. Open source also enterprise and many variant you have in Nginx. So this is the org you see here. You get a open source one. Okay, so we can install this one. So now in Nginx, which is coming in the every Linux machines inbuilt, so you don't need to add any repository and so on. So let me here. So this is the tutorial you can follow for installing in Ubuntu. I have Ubuntu. If you are using something else, you can follow something else also. So how to install and configure Nginx in Ubuntu. So let me run this command, update. Become a root. Now this is a package for the apt. You need to install it. Done. So this command will install the Nginx. Done. Now to check whether the installation is done or not, and 1.18 which has been installed now. Now these are the command to start and stop and enable and disable. So, and it's not something Nginx command, it's a system command which we understand that. So So it's running now. So we are good. Now Nginx receive the all the traffic on 80 port. Though I know that this machine which I'm using it has a 80 port enabled, means I can access it. But these are the commands which you can use it to enable the firewall for HTTP 80 port. So here is HTTP. This will allow the traffic for HTTP, and this command will allow for HTTPS. You want to check the list of firewall. This is a system firewall. So here it is available HTTP and HTTPS. You can do that. So that is something you can allow here, and then you can reload and run this HTTPS. This command only specific to Ubuntu and allow all. So now this way you did it that traffic. Now how do we test it? So localhost first test it. So look at this here, 12, and you see here it's running. Thank you for using Nginx. So this is the message which is a confirmation stating that okay, this is accessible. So I can, because I have opened the firewall from outside also, I can open up here also. Understood all of how to install Nginx? Okay. Now next thing is how do we change that Nginx configuration file? That is the main thing. But remember this location in Ubuntu. Uh, this is the where your website will go. Okay, default website. You can change the path. Everything can be customized, but this is the default location. That means any website means HTML files, JS files, CS files, and images. You can keep it here so you can access it. Now configuration files you will be having in etc, and this is your major configuration file nginx.conf. So if you want to modify here, you have to restart this stuff, and here also you can set the different websites logs. Remember this is the locations. So this is the something which you have to do. Now let's get started with what can you do with this. So I'll show you multiple changes which you can do that. So here first thing what you can do is creating a virtual host. Okay, virtual host. So how do we create a virtual host? That I'll show you. So here if you see that in Nginx you can create a virtual host like this, HTTP, and here the request is received on 80 port, and server name, this is your, this can be your domain name, or this can be your IP address on which your traffic is coming, whatever it. Right now I don't have a domain name, so here uh, this IP address I can use here. So here what is the events, what is HTTP, what is the server? These are the stanza which we have to understand. So let's get started. So now we are talking about the configurations of Nginx, which is an important one. So the configuration file consists of combination of context and directives. Okay, so when you look at the configurations of nginx.conf for any other configuration, you'll have a context and directives. So each configuration, each nginx configuration has one main context and one http context. So this one which I was showing you, uh, which is a http context. Okay, and this whole things you can call it a main context. I'll show you examples in upcoming. So look at this. This is the skeleton you'll see. So main, which is a nginx.conf, you'll have a multiple context like event context, HTTP context, stream context, under the HTTP server and upstream and locations and all. So this is the hierarchies of it. Okay. So this is, we call it a context in Nginx. So what is the main context? So main context is a very highest level where you declare the highest level of directives such as number of worker processes, Linux username, the location of process ID file, the location of log files, and so on. Okay. And event context. The event context is used to define the connection processing directives. That is the number of connection assigned to each workers. HTTP context define how Nginx process the HTTP and HTTPS connection. For example, you can set up pool of backend server or applications. Directive used to used on the HTTP context are inherited by its children context, and that is the upstream and the server and location context. The server context define the virtual server, so it is also known as virtual host, which processes a given HTTP request for domain name, IP address, and Unix socket. So now if you look at this here you have a server. This define the virtual host, and here this is your server name. Listen on which port. Now HTTP context, which define the entire connection for HTTP and HTTPS. So this is where you can understand. Inside that you have a locations also. If you have a locations also, okay. So right now in this example it's not there. I'll show you. So here inside that location, the location context further define how the virtual server process an HTTP request based on specific URI you have defined. URI means that the URL which pattern which you wanted. It can point to a path on a file system or be determined by matching the URI request to a string defining the context. Upstream context define a group of backend applications, application server or web server to use in a load balancing use cases. So upstream means it will define as a backend application servers or something like that. Stream define, context define how Nginx handles the layer 3 and layer 4 traffic such as TCP and UDP. So what is a layer 3 and layer 4? So if you see that layer 3 and layer 4 is you might have heard about the OSI model, right, for the networking. In that we have a layer 3 and layer 4. I think AbstraNet DP, network layer and transport layer. So these are the, I think, two layers we have. So this is the thing. So now let's show you here first how to just how to use it. So um, let's go for um, machine. Here it is. So go for Nginx ctc Nginx, and here this is the configuration file vi, and here you have lots of entries. Now you see that. So what I will do, see here, this is the main context, this is the event context, this is the HTTP context, and so on. So this is the default one, and many other context we have. So what I will do, I'll just go to just HTTP context, and here under the HTTP you see that here server, this is the virtual host. So do you have any server available? Let me check. I'm just checking. No, under the things is not available. So what I'll do, I will add one virtual host. So here, this is the way I can add it. Save it. Now the IP address, I have to change it. So IP address is this one. So this is the way you can create as many virtual hosts you wanted. And your location is when you hit 80 port on this server name, it should redirect to the temp Nginx. This is the virtual host. So here, save it and restart the Nginx. Status. Running. So now I'll just go and hit, see here. So now you created a virtual host, and because of that, it's redirecting the traffic to TMP Nginx, correct? And TMP Nginx is having no file. That's the reason it's displaying nothing, 404. So go to TMP Nginx now and CD Nginx. Not creators have to create it. Create Nginx, CD Nginx, and here I'll create one fake file, index.html. Is a home page for this, and refresh. See, this is the empty. Now I'll add some code here, some fake code. This is a just for demo, and refresh and see it's coming. So now if you want to create a virtual directories in Nginx, you can use something like this. You can add as many virtual host and get it done. Are you understanding, all of you?
Yes, Raj.
What
Okay.
virtual host means like redirecting traffic to a specific, like the traffic we are getting on any port, we can redirect to like, any of the directory, right?
Yes. Now let's talk about the location and blocks. So what is a block? So here in Nginx, you will find uh, context, the one which I showed you, main context, HTTP context, server context, and all. But you will find also derivative also and blocks. So what is the derivatives and block? So we use derivative to achieve a specific functionality within your Nginx configurations. Okay. A derivative is a single statement. Mind it, it's a single statement that control a given Nginx behavior. So derivative means in that case, if you look at the here, every line is can be a derivative. Okay. But there is one more concept. We have a block. So block is a group of derivative encased encased in a curly braces. So if you see that here in this, uh, this is a block. See, if you see that this is a block, this is also block because curly braces, see here. But if only talk about this one, it's a derivative. We call it a derivative. So this Nginx configuration is consist of derivative and block. Okay, so look at this here. Derivative example. Server, this is the context, and then we have one derivative, listen 80, and then a root directive. Okay, and the entire thing we can call it a block. So this is a derivative and block. So if you see that here, so many context which I showed you last time. So main context, event context, HTTP context, server context, and so on, stream context. So this is the context, and inside that you have a derivative and blocks. Okay, so MIME types. So MIME types means here you see, you have seen this MIME types. Let me show you. Let me show you here. So if you see that here, this is the MIME types file, and if you see that very carefully, there's a lot of types of file is defined. So this is the one file which has all the mapping and extension. Okay, and now if you see that configuration file, which is somewhere here, and here if you see that somewhere here, so that file is added, included, is loaded. So what is the MIME types this file is doing? So using the MIME types, you can tell your web server what types of file it should be loaded in the browser. Okay, so if you do not specify that type, MIME type, then it will not load. So media type is a two-part identifier for file format and format content transmitted on the internet. The internet assigned number authority is the official authority for the standardization and publications for these classifications. So this is the media type which I showed you that file. And how can you load it? So here you have this line, include MIME types. So you can modify the files, and if you think, okay, I don't want that to be served by my web server, you can exclude that. So that is, you can do that very well. Are you understanding, all of you? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now if you see that here you have a locations and blocks. So these are the locations. So here you see, let's understand that. So last time we understand this one. Now if you go for carefully little bit, see this one, locations. So anyone who hit the web server, which is this one, look at the URI, and then separated by greeted to, then if you want to at certain location, you want to display something, you can do that. Okay, so that is also, it is possible. Here also you have one more locations, here also you have one more locations. Okay, so we'll continue the demo for this, but before that, can we have a let's 5-10 minutes of break for fresh room? Can we?
If you would have any issues with our channel membership, you can drop an email to us at contact@devopsschool.com, or you can also unsubscribe from channel membership anytime if you don't want to continue or did not like the video.
Please be kind enough to like it, and you can comment any of your doubts and queries. We will reply to them at the earliest.
Thanks for watching.